Assalamu alaikum. Hello. Okay. In-country value and the oil and gas industry's drive to drive the in-country value. That's basically my presentation for the day. I realize this is not a new presentation, so some of you may have seen it, but the principles are still very much valid. But let me first talk about, I think, myself and OPAL. Most of you obviously know probably OPAL. It used to be called the Oman Petroleum Alliance, and that's why you got OPAL. And then in 2001, we basically, when the Ministry of Social Development started licensing associations like ours, we then renamed ourselves Oman Society for Petroleum Services. It's a non-profit organization. It's got about 430-something members, and from all sectors, basically. So they are from, the oil producers, construction contractors, tourism industry, all support services, basically. We promote standards, and essentially we are the voice of the industry. What I'm going to share with you today basically is looking at the ICV as a project and how and what was taken on board by the Ministry of Oil and Gas on behalf of the oil and gas industry, how we were addressing the ICV opportunity, and this, what I'm presenting to you is basically the blueprint strategy for ICV development in Oman, and how we designated it and ensure its success for the future. You can read that for yourself, but indeed the ICV value, in-country value, is really putting HM's words into action when we actually addressed the nation in 2012. It says, we've instructed our government to focus in its future plans on social development, particularly its aspects related to the daily lives of citizens. This should be achieved by the creation of renewable employment opportunities and training programs for citizens and promoting production capacity, as well as scientific, cultural, and educational development. We will closely follow the steps taken in this field. And I believe he does take that very, very seriously, and so do we indeed take that very seriously. So it's about employment opportunities, it's about building the cadre, technical cadre as well as non-technical cadre in supporting the ICV or the future of Oman. And I think simply put, in-country value essentially is about products, it's about services, it's about employment opportunities for Oman and remaining in Oman. That's essentially, and simply put, what ICV is all about. Commitment to ICV development is utmost importance, and I think we have that. The Ministry of the Ministry of Oil and Gas is right up there in the forefront. And you can see PDO there, you can see BP, Oxy, the big boys are all in there. And they basically sit in the ICV Strategy Committee, which charts out the future of the ICV plans for the future. Now, before we started on this, key initiatives that was put together indeed was ensuring collaboration. Ensuring there's a team in place and trained to employ in local workforce development programs are in place, that we increase local sourcing. Not that in the oil and gas industry we're not there, but essentially we're at 64% average urbanization level, and that 64% is in a very complex technical environment in the oil and gas. So and that's not a mean, it's not an easy thing to get 64%, as probably some of you may know. Indeed, more than 80% of the oil and gas companies' direct sourcing is done through local contractors, agents, and suppliers. But that needs to be tracked so that we generate the value down the value chain. It was, I think, in 2012, this strategy was put together around 2012, and we basically said there is a need for tighter collaboration and deeper analysis of the ICV content in Oman. I won't go in each one of these, but I think in the interest of time, I will skip through a number of these slides. This is the organization, and it provides that focused approach. If you see up there, you've got the ICV governance structure, where it's chaired by the Undersecretary of Oman, MOG. And OPAL CEO, myself, is the secretary of that strategic committee. And you've got, indeed, producers and operators. You've got the government ministries in there. You've got the project management office and some of the contracting community, the big contracting community. With that, there's subcommittees. One works on HR development, basically, people development and competence development. One works on contracts and procurement. And these are the two main committees that have been put together, and they're answerable to the strategy committee. Accenture was contracted to look at the demand and supply gap analysis. And indeed, so it was demand. Let's look at demand. Let's look at supply and see what the gap is. And I think that was a very important aspect. So we've got the CMP managers in the contract and procuring managers in the oil companies who sat in a committee, and also the HR managers also of the oil and gas companies who sat in another subcommittee, and that then became the thrust to ensure that the ICV agenda is taken forward. I mentioned the 82% earlier of the spend, and that is mostly external really, against only 18%, which is accounted as ICV, meaning that only 18% of spend is actually spent in Oman, and the rest is spent outside. So I think that's an important element to sort of think about. They basically, this is Accenture, came up with this gap, and this is really, it's based on the OPEX and CAPEX spend, and indeed, this is conservative. The 64 billion is very much conservative, and it's capital and CAPEX projects. Bearing in mind, these were CAPEX and OPEX projects in a $100 barrel. So these figures obviously would definitely change as we go along. And I must emphasize that ICV is a journey. If we look at Brazil, what happened in Brazil, they've been on it for the last 25 or so years. If we look at Malaysia, they've also been, doing this for the last, 15 or 18, 20 years. So it's a journey, and we just started this journey, and I think it's important to note that. So there's basically 64 billion in gross value to be a pool to be tapped. And we looked at the number of oil and gas staff, and indeed, there's about 25,000 Omanis working in the oil and gas industry, out of a population of around 60,000 in the total oil and gas. And you broke it down, if you can look, broke it down in construction, service providers, oil and gas companies, and manufacturing. And you can see in construction, for example, we're 25% Omanized. Outside the oil and gas industry, this is a much lower figure. I think we're talking, the last time I had a chat with the Oman Society for Contractors, he basically was talking an Omanization percentage that he wanted to start with oil and gas, with an overall Omanization of 12%. So that's, in the oil and gas industry, I think we're far ahead in ensuring that our contractors are at that level. And this is like an ongoing battle with construction. Service providers, we are around 59%, and service providers, I'm talking about Halliburton, Schlumberger, Baker Hughes. Essentially, these are our service providers. Oil and gas companies, indeed, PDO and Oxy and all that. And indeed, manufacturing is the second wave that is something that we need to measure. On the right, you will see in terms of distribution of the skill levels, we basically put them on semi-skilled engineers, technicians, operators, and so on. And you can see even in the unskilled, we had 46%, the highest in the operator level, and most of the operators are really in the oil and gas main companies. So the definite need for a comprehensive program to address the 64 billion, and the usual thing, you look at mission and strategy and look at cross-industry development initiatives and supply chain initiatives, and then the project management, what they do and so on. So this was a picture that was put together to ensure that we take this forward. There are 83 spend categories that we talked about in the oil and gas operators. They looked at them and said, okay, now where are these? And you can see there you've got air compressors, switchboards, cables, and so we really came down to a certain level of granularity to try and see what are the areas that we can work with the local industry to develop these in the ICV programs. Now, we then looked at them and said, okay, which are these areas in terms of cross-industry initiatives and local workforce development programs? So it was in two-pronged, and that's why we have these two main committees, one looking at contract and procurement, and the other one looking at HR and local workforce development. It's basically, and we put, and I think, as I said, it's a journey. It's a journey that is started, and I think we're very much taking that very seriously. I've just come back this morning, in fact, from the UK. We went to look at what they were doing, to learn from the experience in building sector skills councils, which really then are charged to develop, to have a focused approach so that we can understand per sector what each sector is charged to do. And that was an experience, I think, for us. And I think it's something we are seriously taking forward with us. We had the Ministry of Manpower with us, and obviously Ministry of Oil and Gas. We went there to look at how a sector council will work in reality. And I think that is something that you'll be seeing more of in the very near future. I think I want to talk about that stuff. Okay. As you see, there are basically more than 40 enabling initiatives across these areas, and I will come to that. I think altogether we are talking of about 53 supply chain development opportunities, and SME and local companies, JVs. These are targeted to develop some of these 53 supply chain development initiatives, and focusing as well on enhancing quality, trying to see how we can launch new industries and work with suppliers and contractors and indeed build a supply chain accordingly. The 53 supply chain development opportunities, now the 3 to 6 month cycle, depending on the opportunity, I believe this is a bit, I think as I said, we're learning in the process. It's taking us much longer than the 3 to 6 months to develop these opportunities, basically. So, by the time you register an interesting party to initiating a dialogue, to exploring, to maximizing the ICV, to applying, sourcing strategy, and then implementing the project. The 3 to 6 month cycle, I think, is more like a 6 to 12 month cycle. That's what we're learning from this experience. These are basically, again, the opportunities that were developed and attached to each and every one of the operators. So you can see developing of drilling rigs, that was PDO and BP, fabricating of tubulars, PDO and Oxy, manufacturing of casing equipment, and so on. So each one of the operators were given the responsibility to develop through their normal value chain, supply chain process. And at the bottom, you can see the SME development program focus on inspection and services that was attributed to or given to Oxy to develop. On the workforce development priorities, again, it's about increasing competence level and productivity of the local workforce, driving performance both in technical professions as well as non-technical professions, and setting up training programs for development, improving education for long-term development. As I said, this is why we were working together with the Ministry of Manpower in developing their training centers and their VTCs, their vocational training centers, developing them for the oil and gas industry, basically, but looking in a holistic manner, and to internationally accredited standards. That's what we're working to. And that, I think, becomes an important element for us. Again, let me emphasize that 3 to 6 months is, I think, very clearly something that is not easy to do. And I can tell you that from experience. We were putting together a learning and development hub. And you imagine when you sit with, 6 or 7 companies around the table, each one has got different ways of doing things, and you're trying to bring them together, as somebody said, it's herding cats. But I think we're getting there, and that, I think, is an important element to stress. Again, in developing the local workforce, I was just putting that up. This is work in progress. The Learning Hub and Career Guidance portal, that is something that is being put together by an SME as we speak. The contract has been let. The joint recruitment portal, which we're working at, is also something that we're looking at giving it to local SMEs, and we're working with Knowledge Village, working with some of their, what do you call them, up-and-coming IT young people in putting that together. That's basically the ICV HR committee drive. Monitoring and reporting and performance, I think that is something that it's been seriously started. The program is in place now, and I'm looking at November for actually one or two of the operators to come up and report of the ICV performance at the strategy group. So again, it's really setting the standards and terms and conditions. That's been done. The evaluation model, that again has been done, and the standard reporting system that's also been agreed with. The cost and benefit economic model, we worked with SQU to develop that, and I think we have something, but it's highly academic, so we're taking parts of it and dropping others, but it's something that we are seriously working, and we worked with SQU to develop the cost and benefit model. To us, ICV means building competition in the oil and gas supply chain. And that is one of the important elements. In meeting local demand, and indeed, wherever possible, building a world-class Omani workforce and maybe exporting it abroad. So internationally prepared Omani workforce that can work locally as well as internationally. The status of the ICV project today, we have the committee, and it's indeed chaired by His Excellency Musallam Al-Awfi. Membership of senior executives sit there. We meet every quarter. It used to be every month. We now basically have toned it down to every quarter. The ICV process is run through two committees, the ICV HR Forum and the ICV CMP Forum, and they meet every month to discuss progress. And as I said, the monthly meetings now are with the forums, the ICV HR and the CMP Forum. We're now meeting quarterly with at the strategy level. So you can see we have developed from meeting monthly to track progress to meeting quarterly to ensure that we have proper sort of still tracking progress, but on a quarterly basis rather than a monthly basis. A lot of learnings are being taken from this experience. As I said, we have benchmarked ourselves with looking at Malaysia, looking at Brazil, to see where we will stand now and what are we looking for 20 years from now, or rather at least by 2020 and going forward. The project management office is set, and it indeed has some senior people sitting there both from the Ministry of Oil and Gas and from the oil and gas companies. And their role essentially is, adjusting the strategy as the industry, to the evolution of the industry and evolution of factors. As you see, the price of oil is a factor. So again, it's about, but I must stress this is a long-term thing, so it's a long-term journey. But their role is to ensure that, they have the market opportunities, market intelligence, and identify new opportunities. Delivery and implementation of the blueprint lies with, the project management office, communication between all stakeholders, and monitoring and reporting progress and results. This is the PMO, the HR ICV project. As I told you, we are working with all the oil and gas companies. The forum is managed by Khalid Al-Hinai, who is the advisor to His Excellency the Minister, and members representing HR managers and professionals of the oil and gas companies. It includes indeed engagements with key stakeholders, including the Ministry of Manpower. We've been working very, very closely with them together in building their, as I said, the vocational training centers and the training centers to an international level where young people coming out there, can really be accepted in both in the oil and gas industry and outside the oil and gas industry. CMP subcommittee, Aqla Al-Maskri, she's a local content development director. That she's the chair of that committee. Again, members of contracting CMP managers and professionals are in that committee. And as I said, they meet every month, and they are answerable to the main strategic committee. Now, as I said, you're talking from 18%. I think importantly is for you to look at the 18% that we are at the moment, and we're looking at moving to an estimated ICV content of 32%. That's the target in 2020. It's an upward battle. I can tell you, it's not easy. It's quite a battle to as I said, herd cats, but. These are professionals in their own right, and they are, the push and pull comes from both the Ministry of Oil and Gas as well as from the managing directors of these oil companies. It's coming from both of them. So I think the push is there, and the pull as well from the Minister of Oil and Gas is in place, and I think that's important to state. As I said, the PM of office indeed has a 100% Omani team, and they are running to ensure that they meet the ICV challenges. Nothing is easy. Changing a mindset is something that is not very easy. It's very difficult. But I'm glad that I heard something called buzzword here before. And the ICV is no longer a buzzword, it's a reality. At least in the oil and gas industry, it's a reality. It's been picked up by almost everybody now as something that needs to be done. There's a conference tomorrow in the Chamber of Commerce, and they're talking about ICV. And you will hear this in the years to come. And I think we're starting to get some traction on ICV as a strategy, and I think it makes good business sense, and I think that's important to note. Costs, obviously, is not cheap. Investments of the next 1 to 5 years. I know Parambi, has thrown the challenge that costs and money is not an issue. He has plenty of it. So. Thank you. We hear that, and I think that's music to anybody's ears in terms of making sure that you have those costs to build up industry as we go along and to build investments for the future. Transparent bid evaluation, that's another challenge. As I said, each and every one of these big companies have got their own way of doing things, but I think we are starting to get the traction. We have a common sort of benchmarks or common reporting structure, and each one of the companies is expected to, when they come up to bid evaluation, to do it along a certain lines where ICV is taken on board both on materials and manpower resourcing and organization. Resources and dedicated staff to deliver ICV, indeed, that is a challenge because all these resources are coming from the oil and gas companies, and some of them are willing to stay, but some of them may not see a career in sitting with the in the PMO office, but that is a challenge. I think we've cracked the challenge. Most of the guys are willing to stay. But that is, again, you need that continuity and to having dedicated staff to deliver the ICV agenda going forward. Alignment with operators and government entities, I think that is a bigger challenge than all. So I think key messages on delivery of ICV, senior executive sponsorship, clear structure which is in place, strategy, policies designed by the executive board, ICV to be viewed as an investment in the country, and I think that's a major challenge. Replicating internal, external best practices. As I said, we went out to the UK to look at the best practice in developing people, and the idea of putting together a social skill, a sector skill council, I think, is one that we're taking forward as best practice. Continually communicating, ensuring consistency of messages and alignment of these messages across all the operators and oil and gas companies. Looking at quick wins to create that momentum, and I think that is an important thing to make sure that people recognize that the oil and gas industry is serious about the ICV agenda, and it's just not a buzzword. These are a number of opportunities. I'm not going to go through them, but you can see that, this is a reporting structure, and there are traffic lights in each one of these, and this is basically something that's being reported on a quarterly basis to the ICV Strategy Committee on each one of these projects. This is my last slide. Mission is developing a competitive and sustainable local supply market, goods, services, and skills. And that, I think, is a mission that is worth us sitting in those committees and, stretching our heads and pushing to make sure that the ICV agenda is taken forward. I think that that is a noble cause for all of us. Thank you for your patience.